Hey everyone, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. Today is Friday, last day of the week, August 2nd. Hope you're doing well and happy Friday. In this video, by popular request, we're going to be comparing the top Canadian MJ companies. I've done a video similar to this in the past, but it'd be good to kind of get an update on this, and I'll give my thoughts and opinions. But getting a lot of requests about this, I had a ton of people asking me to kind of do a video just kind of comparing the two and show the differences. Because I've been saying for a while now, we're finally starting to see the differentiation of these types of companies in Canada. A lot of the companies, when in the early days, were trying to be everything to everybody, and there was a lot of overlap. And now we kind of have, these the tier ones are really just focusing on their strengths and key areas of the sector. And as a result, we start to see these companies not only differentiate from one another, but also sort of complement one another, which is great to see, especially with regards to, retailers from a retail to an operator perspective. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. And if you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You've been notified on any future videos or when I go live. As always, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only, and you should never buy or sell anything based on anything that I say or write. And full disclosure, I do own all of the companies that we're about to discuss. But essentially, I'm just going to go over all of the top MJ companies in Canada. I'm not going to go over every single one. I'll try my best to touch on as much as I can in a very short period of time. And like I said, I'll go over, from the top ones, from the largest market cap to the smallest market cap, and then I'll go over some of the differences there. Also, you can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. The handle for that is @GroupPow. I'm going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. So the first on the list, probably not surprising, is Tilray Brands. It has a market cap of 1.568 billion USD, and Tilray is very differentiated compared to a lot of the other companies in Canada. And the biggest thing that it was focusing on was diversification. So it diversified into beyond MJ into the beverage segment and alcohol segment. So it's more of a manufacturer of alcohol. So it acquired Montauk. It also has a bunch of other, like Sweetwater Brewing Company. It has some spirit business as well. I won't get into all the details of that because it'll take too long, but essentially they did buy 8 beer and beverage brands from Anheuser-Busch as well, InBev, so ABI, and it is now the 5th largest craft brewer in the U.S. This diversification helps to reduce its reliance on the competitive and low-margin Canadian MJ market, especially ahead of what we would expect to see some sort of improvement to Canadian excise taxes, where Irwin Simon even said that it could potentially switch from a flat rate to a percentage fee, which would add tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to some of these companies' bottom line, right? And it would instantly make them profitable pretty much if that was switched to a percentage fee. So Tilray is very differentiated. They manufacture alcohol, and then a lot of these brands are going to be infusible with MJ, right? Like think of the Sweetwater 420 Pale Ale, think of the Highball Energy, right? All of these brands that they have, which Highball just launched on Amazon, and they're getting into different water and energy drinks. So these are all different things that they can spin off and add, eventually add CBD or eventually to it, or, any kind of psychoactive component, right? So they're very set up very well for the beverage brands and beverage segment, so they can easily integrate into that MJ and infuse MJ into that, right? So that in itself is a huge segment and product category that I think a lot of people are underestimating, especially when it comes to, events and pubs and concerts and things like that. Go to a sporting event, you go to see Denver Broncos or something like that, right? You're going to be able to buy beverages, probably not, pre-rolls or something like that. So they're very differentiated from that perspective. They have global operations. I think they said 20 some countries. They operate in multiple different continents. And I think there was 20 countries in total, but very large global footprint as well. And they're number one in Canada in terms of market share, number one in Germany. They just got the first license in Germany as well, which saw a 5x production increase. And they got an additional licensing and new strains and things like that in Poland. So they've got a huge head start there in terms of Germany, which is double the population of Canada. And then the EU could follow suit as well, and that is double the population of the United States. And then just imagine once they come to the United States, we have rescheduling, full-blown legalization at some point. And there's also some news out that they're going to be getting, I think they said somewhere between 9 to 11 stores of MedMen through that bankruptcy filing. And they called it MedMen 3.0. And they're very confident in the MedMen brand going forward. And that's going to be a great entry for them into the U.S. as well. And then like I said, not only that, they have, I think they said, I think it was on the call, they said somewhere around 500 distributors in the U.S. for just their beverages and their alcohol segment. So that is great to see. So this is a absolute juggernaut in the making. Their brand portfolio, they have some of the best brands in the industry. Their innovation, so they continue to lead different categories, and their financial strength as well. They have a great balance sheet, and we're starting to see that turn the other way. The recent earnings was fantastic, and they have a huge distribution business as well. I think there was over 13,000 pharmacies with CC Pharma. They have their medical, right? They have their adult use, their recreational, their medical MJ. They have their distribution business, their wellness business with Manitoba Harvest. They have so many different parts of their business that is diversifying them and really makes them stand out. So I want to spend a little bit more time on them because there really is no other company like Tilray, in my opinion. They are going to be, if not the leader, I would say top 3, top 5 for sure globally. I would say definitely top 5. Possibly top 3, maybe even the number 1 MJ company worldwide. Jumping into the next one, we have Kronos Group. And if anybody thinks of anything else, let me know in the comment section below. If there's anything else that I missed or you wanted to add to this, we can continue the conversation there. Kronos Group is next in line with a market cap of $885.236 million. Majority of that is just their cash position. They are, as far as I'm aware, a 100% MJ play. So they focus solely on MJ operations, and they're a producer, right? They pay excise taxes, and they're not into retail. Same thing with Tilray. Kronos Group also has an investment from Altria of about $1.8 billion. There was rumors that they could potentially merge with Curaleaf. Maybe they buy another operator, right? They're sitting on a ton of cash, so we'll see what happens. Maybe U.S. entry, but for the most part, they're basically just an MJ company, right? Very differentiated there, and they have investments from Altria, and they could potentially look to buy a different operator or merge with another company. We'll see what happens, but they've been kind of quiet lately, so we should see some information and some news pertaining to Kronos in the not too distant future. CGC, they have an investment from Constellation Brands, billions of dollars. So most people know this story here. They also have stores in Bickle, which is sort of that ancillary type of business where they, sell different products like vaporizers and things like that, paraphernalia, right? So devices for smoking devices, all different types of stuff, right? So that's kind of how they're differentiated, and that's one of the number 1 brands in the MJ space. And then they also have the first of its kind novel structure Canopy USA, right? So they have Acreage, Wana, and Jetty going to be all under that Canopy, that CUSA entity, which is a separate LLC and holdings company compared to the original Canopy Growth. So if you haven't seen videos, I've done that on the exchangeable share structure, but essentially you have to convert your shares into exchangeable shares, and it's going to be 2 separate entities. Their financials will be separate, right? So they're going to deconsolidate those financials, and if you own Canopy USA shares, those exchangeable shares, you don't have voting rights in the parent company, Canopy Growth. So they're very differentiated in that aspect, and they're essentially now a multi-state operator as well, right? Because they now have Canopy USA, and the goal eventually is that it'll all become one company, right? All under one umbrella, but it's going to take some time before we get there. SNDL and their market cap, Canopy Growth, is $676.099 million. Next on the list, we have SNDL, market cap of $557.641 million. SNDL is very differentiated. They're an operator, so they do pay excise taxes. So they're a producer in Canada. They have retail in MJ, so they have retail MJ stores. They have retail alcohol stores as well. They have some of the biggest brands here in Western Canada and Alberta. Ace Liquor, you got Liquor Depot. There's a ton of different ones. They have tons of stores. I think there was like 150 of those stores, plus somewhere around north of 200 stores, just liquor stores. And then they had, I can't remember the exact number. I won't try to quote the exact number, but I think it was somewhere around 100 MJ stores with Value Buds and all the different types of retailers that they have. They do have some franchise stores, so they have corporate-owned stores as well, and then they have franchise stores also. So that's kind of another way how they differentiate from like a High Tide, for example. And, they were a huge meme stock back in the day and got a lot of capital from that as a result. And they like to buy distressed assets. They bought Delta 9, Zenobus. They had a hand in that. They had Delta 9. They had Indiva as well. And they also have Sunstream, which is their investment arm into the US, right? So they're very differentiated from that standpoint. Aurora MJ is the next on the list. We have 322.806 million for market cap. And Aurora has recently pivoted and is focusing more on medical markets. So they've since really dropped in market share in Canada in adult use and recreational sales. And like I said, they're really focusing on that medical aspect. So I think that's a smart move. And like I said, you can really start to differentiate these companies, whereas before in the early days, everything was very similar. It reminds me of the US market, which I'll touch on in just a moment towards the end of this video very briefly. And if everybody wants me to do a video similar to this on the US MSOs and the operators in the US, let me know, and I'll do my best to get that put in place at some point here in the not too distant future. But yeah, ACB, 322.806 million market cap, and focusing mostly on medical. Organogram, 156.723 million market cap, and they are a 100% MJ play. So I like them. They're a great company. They're really good. They're really good with the edibles. They're known for their edibles, and they're a fantastic company. I think they're a great long-term bet, and I think they're going to be one of the top 10 for sure. They do have their Jupiter investment arm, which is in partnership with British American Tobacco. So they got 124 million and change investment from British American Tobacco. So we're seeing a lot of partnerships from these big tobacco, big alcohol companies into these Canadian companies, right? And there's a reason why. They know that these companies they have a huge head start, and they're going to be massive, right? We're going to see LPs become MSOs and MSOs become LPs, right? We're already seeing that with Canopy and Canopy USA and Acreage with Jetty, Wana. You have Curaleaf as well, which is now becoming an international juggernaut, and they also just recently acquired Northern Green Canada, so they're now a LP essentially as well, so they have operations in Canada. But I'll move along a little bit quicker here. Organogram, pretty much a 100% MJ play. High Tide has a market cap of 140.866 million. And High Tide is not an operator, so they don't pay any excise taxes. That's only for licensed producers in Canada. So that's how they're differentiated there. They have retail MJ only stores, and they have no franchises. So they're the largest non-franchised retailer in Canada, and they've been very good stewards of capital. So they're not just buying distressed assets. They don't want to just buy something because it's cheap or it's distressed. They're being very strategic, and they're adding stores that are profitable. So they're just a little bit different in that regard, where they're not just tossing money around, and they don't have a ton of capital from the capital markets, like for example like an SNDL, right, that had a ton of capital raised just during that meme stock craze in 2021. So they have to be a little bit better stewards of capital, in my opinion. But like I said, they have multiple different stores. They have the largest non-franchise, so very differentiated. They also have some people refer to it as the Costco of MJ. They have their membership. So if you just sign up with your phone number, essentially, they get your information, which we know data is king at the moment, right? It's all about data. And then you get discounts on the prices, but then you can also sign up for their elite membership, similar to like a Costco, where you pay right now, I think it was like $35 here in Alberta. But essentially, I think it's normally like $50 or $60. And then you get access to specific items in store, and you can only buy certain elite products if you're on the elite membership. So they have certain drinks, they also sell like, smoking devices and bongs, and they have white labeling, things like that. So private labels. So they're very differentiated. And like I said, some people compare that to the Costco of MJ, and it's just, in my opinion, all of these companies have a great place in your portfolio, right? Because of how differentiated they are. And then I'll just mention like a Cannara Biotech, right? It's a very small operator. I think the last time I checked it was like a 60 million market cap, but they're focusing more on the craft aspect and kind of just crawl, walk, run approach, right? So it's just like focusing on growing very, very slowly and execution, but not growing too fast, too quickly, and focusing more on that craft and affordable prices as well. So I think there's going to be that demand for that craft niche market. I think MaryMed's another one that kind of similar in the US. But yeah, there's going to be the need for craft, right? Just like there is craft beer. But at the end of the day, a lot of this space is going to be owned by, I would say, probably 6 to a dozen different companies. And there's going to be winners and losers, both sides of the border, Canadian. There's going to be tons of US operators as well. And speaking of which, Curaleaf is the number one market cap with 2.671 billion. And one thing I'll mention about Curaleaf is they're very similar to, say, a Tilray, they have international. They're big into Germany, Poland. They play in a lot of the same markets as Tilray. They're now a licensed producer as well. They just acquired Northern Green Canada. They have a huge footprint, and they just got into hemp drinks as well. Same thing as Tilray, getting into hemp Delta 9 beverages and different edibles and things like that. So they're very differentiated. They're in a ton of markets in the U.S. And like I said, they remind me a lot of Tilray. And Tilray is my number one holding. Curaleaf, my number two holding in my MJ portfolio. If you haven't seen my MJ portfolio 2024 update with percentage breakdown, I break down all of my holdings with the weighting of each. And I'm going to do another update on that portfolio at some point in the back half here of 2024. I'm probably going to do some more buying here. I've been doing incremental buying here and there, but I'll do a updated video. It has changed quite a bit since my initial one, but you can check that out and then expect a update on that in the not too distant future as well. But I'll just touch on some of our other MSOs real quickly as well. Like if we could just go down the list, like AYR has a big footprint in Florida. Obviously, Trulieve is the number one medical in Florida, so they're pretty much dominating the Florida market. AYR is big in Florida as well. But a lot of these operators are very similar. Cresco, you got Curaleaf, Trulieve, Green Thumb, right? Those are pretty much all the main ones. And just going down the list, like there's not a whole lot of differentiation. It reminds me a lot of the Canadian companies in the early days. So there's not a lot of differentiation in the US, and they're probably going to go through a lot of the same challenges. If you look at the price compression that's going on in California right now, operators are really struggling. And just imagine once all these Canadian operators start to sell in the US, we're already seeing it with Canopy and Acreage, right? We're already seeing it with SNDL, Sunstream. You got Organogram looking to get into the US, Tilray with MedMen. And it's just a matter of time, right? And then there's going to be fierce competition in the U.S. once 280E goes away and rescheduling or descheduling and 280E goes away. That barrier of entry is going to go away as well. And there's going to be fierce competition just in their own backyard in the U.S., but especially from, whenever these LPs start to sell in there into that market as well from that standpoint. So there's going to be a lot of competition. It's going to be a very, very difficult market. But those that end up on top in the U.S. are going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with, right? So they're very, like I said, and you got like a Planet 13, right? Their business model, they're the best, the biggest dispensary, right? So they're all about entertainment. So they're very differentiated. But beyond that, a lot of these different MSOs, they're really the only real differentiation is just different states. So some are focusing on different states, different areas of the U.S., and some have different market share and different amounts of footprint in different states, right? So most of the differentiation from the MSOs is just from a licensing and market, like the different states that they're in and the different markets that they're in, right? So there's not a whole lot of differentiation there, other than the fact that, like a Curaleaf, like I said, that is focusing on Canada and international in Germany as well. You're just not seeing that from the rest of the operators. But going down the list here in Canada, like I said, you got Aurora, you got CGC, you got Cron, Decibel, High Tide, right? So if you just go down the list in Canada now, right, a lot of these companies, like they're very differentiated. You can look at like a Village Farms, it's into, and I didn't mention them, but they're into agriculture as well, and fruits and vegetables, which Tilray has expressed interest into as well from diversification standpoint, and probably learned some of that from Village Farms. And they just had all this extra grow space that it just makes sense, especially with the rising food prices and things like that. It definitely makes a lot of sense. And if they can help, kind of alleviate some of that pressure and inflation and prices and add to supply, then that's a great thing at the end of the day. But, again, you can go down the list here, and there's a lot of companies. There's a lot of different MJ companies. But just try to keep it simple. I think we're going to see the same price compression in the U.S. and a lot of consolidation. There's still lots of consolidation needed in the Canadian space as well, in my opinion, but we're going to see a ton of consolidation across the sector, including the U.S. and internationally as well. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section below. I tried to keep the video around 10 to 15 minutes, but we're already past the 19-minute mark. But again, if you're interested in seeing a similar video for the U.S. MSOs, let me know, and I'll try to get something together. Like I said, it's a little harder to differentiate those, but, I can kind of go through the different markets that they're in and, who's number one in X state, etc. Like I said, Curaleaf stands out compared to the rest, but let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section below, and we'll continue the conversation there. If you like this video, please leave a like. I would appreciate it. Share it with your network, with anybody that might find value. Happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. It's Rod with Powell Group. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll see you again on the next one.